When it comes to building skyscrapers, there is no piece of construction equipment more essential than the tower crane. These heavy lifting machines dominate city skylines, hoisting materials and machinery to some of the highest construction sites on Earth. They have become a fixture of everyday life in almost every major city as contractors race to build high-rise after high-rise, and more than 100,000 can be found in operation around the world at any given time. Despite how common tower cranes are, they often seem to appear in the sky out of nowhere, leaving many of us wondering how they got there in the first place. The vast majority are erected using larger mobile cranes, but obviously that approach has its limits. When you're building a record-breaking structure and a taller crane simply doesn't exist, or when a dense urban site leaves no room for a mobile crane on the ground, a different solution is needed. Many projects also require tower cranes to rise in unison with the building itself. In these scenarios, the cranes must raise themselves to their final working height entirely on their own, using a method known as climbing, and that is exactly what we'll be exploring today. In general terms, climbing a tower crane refers to the process of adding or removing sections of the mast in order to increase or decrease the overall height. The concept is straightforward in principle, but it is remarkably difficult to execute safely in the field, with catastrophic consequences if anything goes wrong. It is one of the most dangerous operations that can be performed with a tower crane, and it is only carried out when absolutely necessary. Before climbing can begin, a tower crane must first be erected to an initial height using a suitable mobile crane. The process starts with a stable foundation, typically a large concrete slab reinforced with steel rebar, poured about a month before the crane goes vertical, so the concrete has sufficient time to cure. Once the concrete reaches full strength, the first steel truss section of the mast is lifted into place and secured with anchor bolts embedded in the foundation. Additional sections are stacked on top of one another and fastened together with high-strength steel bolts to complete the tower. The mast is topped with a slewing unit, essentially a turntable, that allows the top of the crane to rotate freely, and it serves as a base for the operator's cab and all the lifting components. The exact arrangement of the top assembly varies by crane type, but in the hammerhead configuration shown here, a cathead sits atop the slewing unit, followed by the counter jib and working jib, all connected with steel tie rods that transfer loads down into the mast. A counterweight, typically several concrete slabs, is added to the counter jib to balance the load during lifts, reducing the bending moment the mast must carry. Since the working jib is fixed on this crane type, a trolley system adjusts the hook's radius. Luffing jib cranes, by contrast, change the load radius simply by raising or lowering the jib. Either way, the ability to reposition the load is critical to balancing the crane perfectly over the mast, and that balance is what makes climbing possible. When a tower crane is ready to climb, a steel climbing frame is assembled around the base of the tower and lifted up to the underside of the slewing unit. The frame has a square cross-section with a lattice structure on 3 sides and an open front so that new mast sections can pass through. The top is bolted securely to the underside of the slewing unit, and a hydraulic jack at the bottom is positioned over a push point on the existing mast. A new mast section is hoisted up to the frame, where it is placed on a steel tray or suspended from a guide rail. Before any lifting can begin, the crane top must be perfectly balanced over the jack, achieved by hanging a weight on the hook to offset the counterweights, usually an additional mast section positioned at a precise radius. The crane essentially behaves like a massive balance scale during the climb. If the center of gravity drifts off axis, the crane could topple off the mast entirely. It's also worth noting that the climbing frame is not designed to carry significant torsion, making it absolutely critical that the crane is not rotated during the process. New mast sections are lined up in a straight row on the ground to eliminate any need to swing the crane, and the operator typically vacates the cabin to prevent accidental slewing. Once all safety checks are cleared and the crane is confirmed in balance, the hydraulic cylinder is pressurized to take the weight of the crane top, and the slewing unit is unbolted from the mast. The cylinder lifts the climbing frame, along with the entire top assembly, until there is enough clearance to insert a new mast section, which may require several strokes depending on the cylinder's length. The new section is maneuvered into the frame, bolted to the underside of the slewing unit, and the cylinder is depressurized so the new section engages with the top of the existing mast. After the joints are securely fastened, the cylinder retracts and repositions on the next push point, and the cycle repeats until the desired height is reached. Once complete, the climbing frame is either lowered down the mast or removed entirely until it is needed again to climb higher or to bring the crane back down at the end of construction. Up to this point, we've focused on external climbing, but tower cranes can also climb internally from inside a building. In this scenario, the crane's weight is carried by the structure being built around it, which can increase lifting capacity and reduce costs by eliminating the need for a very tall mast. The process begins the same way. A crane is erected on a concrete foundation, but the tower must include a dedicated climbing section at the base. As the building rises around the mast, two steel collars are installed roughly 3 stories apart, connecting the crane to the building's structural system. Climbing rails extend between the collars inside the open shaft, providing support for a hydraulic jack seated within the mast climbing section. When it's time to climb, the tower is unbolted from the foundation, and the hydraulic cylinder lifts the crane upward until the bottom of the mast reaches the first collar, with a ratcheting system preventing any unintended descent. As additional floors are added, a third collar is installed 3 stories above the existing 2, and the crane is lifted from the bottom collar to the middle one. The bottom collar is then removed and relocated 3 stories above, and the cycle continues as the building stretches higher. When construction is finally complete, the tower crane is either disassembled using a larger mobile crane, or a smaller crane is hoisted to the roof to dismantle the tower crane piece by piece before itself being taken apart by hand. I'll be honest, the more time I've spent studying tower cranes, the more I find myself looking at city skylines differently. What once seemed like a backdrop to everyday life now reveals itself as a living, evolving puzzle of engineering decisions. Every crane you see perched above a half-finished building represents dozens of people who solved a very real problem. How do you build something taller than any machine that exists to help you build it? What strikes me most about the climbing process is how much it mirrors the nature of engineering itself. It's not about having all the tools you need from the start. It's about designing systems that grow with the challenge. The crane lifts the building. The building, in turn, carries the crane. That's not just clever mechanics. It's a kind of elegant partnership between structure and tool that I find genuinely beautiful. There's also something quietly humbling about it. These machines operate at the absolute edge of what physics allows, balanced to within a fraction of a degree. Hydraulic pressure holding hundreds of tons in mid-air, while workers guide steel sections into place dozens of floors up. The margin for error is essentially zero, and yet, this happens on construction sites all over the world, every single day, largely unnoticed by the people walking past below. So, the next time you see a tower crane on the horizon, I hope you'll pause for just a moment, because what looks like a stationary machine is actually a testament to the ingenuity of everyone who figured out how to send it, piece by piece, into the sky. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss a new one. See you in the next one.